Have you ever walked into a performance review, sat down across from your manager, and laid out exactly why you deserve a massive raise? You brought the spreadsheets, you highlighted the late nights, the weekends you sacrificed, and the extra projects you took on. You presented a perfectly logical, bulletproof case for why your salary should reflect the massive amount of value you bring to the company. Your boss smiled, nodded, told you what an incredible asset you are to the team, and then calmly explained that the budget is just incredibly tight right now. They handed you a humiliating 3% cost of living increase and sent you back to your desk. You walked out of that room feeling completely defeated, wondering what you did wrong. I am going to tell you exactly what you did wrong. You walked into a psychological war zone armed with nothing but logic, fairness, and hope. You appealed to their sense of justice. You tried to show them what they would gain by rewarding you. That was your fatal mistake. Today, I am going to teach you how to completely flip the corporate power dynamic. I am going to show you the dark, evolutionary psychology of the loss aversion hack. By the time this video is over, you will possess the precise strategic framework to force your boss to double your salary, not by begging for a reward, but by weaponizing their own biological fear of loss against them. But I must warn you right now, the tactics we are about to discuss are entirely ruthless. We are stripping away the corporate illusions of loyalty, teamwork, and family, and we are looking at the workplace as the cold, calculated hostage negotiation that it truly is. Once you learn how to exploit the survival instincts of the executives above you, your career trajectory will never be the same. To completely master this hack, you have to unlearn the biggest lie corporate America has ever sold you. From the day you entered the workforce, you were brainwashed to believe in the myth of the meritocracy. You were told that if you put your head down, do brilliant work, and generate gains for the company, you will naturally be rewarded with more money. This is a fairy tale designed to keep the working class quiet and productive. The brutal reality of human psychology is that human beings are not motivated by the opportunity to gain something new. They are deeply, biologically motivated by the absolute terror of losing something they already have. This is a proven neurobiological concept known as loss aversion. Discovered by elite behavioral economists, the principle of loss aversion dictates that the psychological pain of losing $100 is twice as powerful and twice as motivating as the psychological pleasure of gaining $100. Let us look at this through the lens of evolutionary biology. Millions of years ago, if our ancestors missed an opportunity to pick a new bush of berries, they were fine. They just missed out on a gain. But if they lost their primary spear, or if they lost their shelter, they died. The human brain evolved to treat loss as a literal life or death threat. The amygdala, the fear center of the brain, lights up like a siren when a loss is anticipated. Now take this primitive biological wiring and apply it to the modern executive sitting in the corner office. Your boss does not care about the company's bottom line as much as you think they do. They care about their own stress levels, their own bonuses, and their own survival. When you walk in and say, "Give me a 20% raise because I will work harder and make you more money," you are offering them a potential gain. Their brain does not care. A potential gain does not trigger the amygdala. It does not create urgency. But when you subtly and strategically make them realize that if you walk out the door, their entire operational structure will collapse, their clients will leave, and their own job security will be completely compromised, you trigger a massive biological panic. You activate their loss aversion. They will suddenly find the budget to pay you whatever you demand, not because they value you, but because they are terrified of the pain of replacing you. They are not paying you for your work. They are paying a ransom to protect their own peace of mind. If you are starting to see the invisible matrix of leverage that controls your everyday life, and you are ready to stop playing by the rules designed to keep you broke, take 1 second right now to hit the subscribe button and like this video. We are building an elite community of strategic thinkers who refuse to be manipulated by the corporate machine. If you want to learn the highest level of psychological warfare to dominate your career, your finances, and your social dynamics, you need to be in this circle. Join the top 1% right now and let us dive into the exact step-by-step execution of the loss aversion trap. You cannot simply walk into your boss's office tomorrow and threaten to quit if they do not double your salary. That is not an alpha move. That is an emotional ultimatum. Ultimatums trigger ego defense. If you give an executive a direct ultimatum, their ego will force them to fire you just to prove that they are in charge, even if it hurts the company. The loss aversion hack is a slow, methodical poison. It is a trap that you must carefully construct over the course of several months before you ever ask for a single dollar. The first phase of this execution is called building the black box. Right now, if you're easily replaceable, you have absolutely zero leverage. If a college graduate can be trained to do your job in 3 weeks, your boss has nothing to lose if you leave. You must actively engineer a scenario where you hold exclusive, undocumented knowledge that the company relies on to function. You must become a black box. You do this by quietly taking control of highly complex, incredibly boring, but absolutely vital processes. You volunteer to manage the legacy software system that nobody else understands. You slowly build exclusive, one-on-one relationships with the company's highest-paying clients, ensuring that those clients trust you more than they trust the actual company logo. You create incredibly complex spreadsheets and data tracking models that only you know how to navigate. And here is the most important part. You never train anyone else on how to do these things. You never write down a standard operating procedure. When people ask you how you perform these miracles, you give vague, complicated answers. You want them to look at your workload and feel entirely overwhelmed. You are silently weaving yourself into the very DNA of the company's daily survival. You are making it so that removing you would be like trying to perform open-heart surgery with a chainsaw. The operational bleeding would be catastrophic. Once the black box is fully constructed and you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that your department would burn to the ground without you, you move to the second phase. The second phase is the subtle introduction of risk. You must slowly plant the seed in your boss's mind that you are not a permanent fixture. You do not do this by complaining or acting unhappy. In fact, you should be entirely positive, professional, and emotionally detached. You introduce risk through casual, calculated microaggressions. You make sure your LinkedIn profile is updated to highly professional standards, and you make sure your boss notices the notification. During a casual coffee break, you casually mention that a recruiter from their biggest competitor reached out to you recently. You quickly brush it off, saying something like, "I told them I am not actively looking right now, but it's always flattering to hear what the market is offering." You smile and walk away. Think about what is happening in your boss's brain in that exact moment. You did not make a threat. You did not demand money, but you just injected a lethal dose of uncertainty into their nervous system. Their brain instantly runs a simulation of what would happen if you actually took that competitor's offer. They think about the clients that would follow you. They think about the chaotic transition period. They think about the tens of thousands of dollars it will cost human resources to recruit, hire, and train a replacement who might end up being a complete failure. They think about the late nights they will personally have to work to cover your absence. The cortisol begins to flood their system. The loss aversion is officially triggered. You have successfully weaponized their own imagination against them. Their mind is doing all of the heavy lifting, negotiating against itself out of sheer terror. Now we arrive at the third and final phase, the execution meeting. This is where you actually secure the massive raise. You schedule a meeting with your boss, but you do not call it a salary review. You call it a strategic alignment meeting. When you sit down, your posture must be entirely relaxed. You do not lean forward, you do not fidget, and you do not speak quickly. You are the apex predator in the room, and apex predators do not rush. You begin by calmly summarizing the massive structural dependencies you have built. You say, I wanted to sit down and review the architecture of the Q4 logistics model I built, as well as the status of the top 3 Tier 1 client accounts. As you know, I have been personally managing the entire back-end integration for these accounts. I have realized that the company is currently carrying a massive amount of operational risk by having all of this highly specialized knowledge isolated entirely with me. Watch their eyes when you say this. You are speaking the language of risk management, but you are actually holding a psychological gun to their head. You continue saying, the market data shows that the current replacement cost and training timeline for an executive handling this specific hybrid of client relations and data architecture is roughly 6 to 8 months, with a massive potential for lost revenue during the transition. I am deeply committed to this company, but as my role has evolved into this highly specialized structural pillar, my compensation is entirely out of alignment with the massive risk I am managing. To ensure that I remain here long-term and continue to protect these vital assets, my base salary needs to be adjusted to this specific number. You state your number, which should be aggressively high, and then you do the most powerful thing a human being can do in a negotiation. You shut your mouth. You look them directly in the eyes. You maintain a neutral, unbothered expression, and you embrace the dead silence. Do not justify your number. Do not apologize. Let the deafening silence fill the room. During these agonizing seconds of silence, their brain is panicking. You have not asked for a reward for good behavior. You have calmly presented them with an insurance policy against absolute catastrophe. You have framed your salary increase not as an expense, but as a risk mitigation strategy. Their amygdala is screaming at them to resolve the threat, to stop the pain of the potential loss. If they try to use standard corporate counter tactics, you must be prepared to hold your frame with absolute zero emotion. If they try to use guilt, saying something like, "We are a family here. I am disappointed you are making this just about money," you do not get defensive. You smile a cold professional smile and reply, "I absolutely value the culture here, which is exactly why I want to ensure my compensation reflects the structural reality of my role, so we can continue to grow together." If they try to delay, saying they need to talk to human resources and it might take a few months, you apply the gentle pressure of an impending deadline. You say, "I completely understand the internal processes. However, as I evaluate my long-term career trajectory this quarter, I will need a firm commitment by Friday to make my own strategic decisions moving forward." You are letting them know, in the most polite corporate language possible, that the clock is ticking and the bomb is armed. Because you have built the black box, and because you have triggered their biological fear of loss, they have absolutely no choice but to fold. They will go to the higher-ups, they will fight human resources on your behalf, and they will magically unlock the hidden budget that they swore did not exist 3 months ago. They will do all of this not because they like you, but because the psychological pain of losing you is vastly greater than the financial pain of paying you. The true mastery of this psychological framework is realizing that your value in society is never determined by how hard you work. There are millions of people breaking their backs every single day, working 80-hour weeks, who will die completely broke. Your value is determined entirely by how difficult you are to replace. Power is not about creating gains. Power is about controlling the pain of loss. When you make your absence mathematically and psychologically devastating, you dictate the terms of your own existence. You stop asking the world for permission, and you start extracting exactly what you are owed from the neurobiology of the people in charge. If this masterclass on corporate manipulation and evolutionary psychology changed the way you view your own leverage, you must hit the subscribe button right now. We are dissecting the brutal, hidden realities of power every single week. Leave a comment down below with the word aversion so I know you possess the focus and the discipline to make it to the very end of this briefing, and that you are part of the elite tier who will actually execute this hack. Do not forget to check the link in the description for highly classified advanced training on mastering your reality, dominating negotiations, and taking absolute control of your life. Until next time, build your black box, hold your frame, and always make them terrified to lose you.